This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Brewers Outlet, and Purdy Insurance.
The man himself, Jody MacDonald. Jody Mac, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm good. And the commercial you did for Purdy Insurance sounds like they're an outstanding company, and it might be something I want to look into, but not this week after Brock Purdy just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So they're going to have to wait for my business for at least a couple of weeks, if not a month.
Yeah, well, that's because you're probably going to be busy attempting to explain what the heck that was. It would take some time on anyone's part. Jody, I'll start with this. You and I both know, based on first-time contracts, rookie contracts, and the veterans, the money is all on the offensive side of the ball, essentially. What did we end up seeing from what is a veteran group on offense that in the end didn't help them?
They've got 6 individuals on offense that are pulling in over $20 million per, and it was good enough to get them all of 19 points yesterday. Yeah, that was another in a line of offensive underachieving games by the Eagles this year, and I don't know why me and others included expected it to all of a sudden turn on a dime. Maybe it was because Jalen Hurts has been as good as he has been in big games, including a Super Bowl MVP. Maybe it's the fact that Nick Sirianni was undefeated at home since he took over as the Eagles coach in the playoffs, hadn't won a road game, but was undefeated at home. And all that went by the wayside yesterday because the Eagles' offense performed like it had all year, massively underachieving. I think the blame is going to all fall on the shoulders of Kevin Patullo, who I don't think had a very good year as an offensive coordinator. When you've never done it before, you don't know what you're going to get. The Eagles did not get any creativity out of their offense this year. Patullo didn't come in and change anything. They got very predictable and very conservative. So he's probably going to pay for it with his job. But this was a team loss across the board. And while you and I are both going to zero in on the offense, certainly more than the defense, they did go up with an Elliott field goal with 8 minutes to play. So all defense had to do was get off the field. They couldn't do it either.
Right.
So the biggest problem for me is this was a team loss. Coaching, offense, defense, Jake Elliott missing a PAT, so the special teams takes a hit. You'd love to be able to just say, okay, all we got to do is swap out Kevin Patullo and everything will be great. No, they lost as a team yesterday.
In fact, when I opened the show today, it was one of the first things I talked about. I said you can talk about the offense all you want, but they threw the game on their defense. And guess what? They didn't come through.
Nope.
And I thought Purdy, except for the 2 Mitchell interceptions, which are, Mitchell's a superior player anyway. But I thought Purdy's poise in the pocket impressed me. He did not panic or get happy feet for the most part. Did you see the same thing?
Been a big Brock Purdy fan since he took over as the quarterback, the starting quarterback of the 49ers years ago. Doesn't seem like that long, but it is now years ago. And I defended him to no end when people kept saying, oh, he's Mr. Irrelevant. How can he be expected to win in the National Football League? Well, watch him, and you find out how he wins. As you said, poise in the pocket. He puts the ball usually in places that protect his wide receivers. And, yes, I give Quinyon Mitchell more credit for the 2 interceptions. He's a funny dude, man. Can't get an interception during the regular season, but picks off all the time come postseason time. He's one of those guys who did live up to his postseason reputation, unlike his teammates yesterday. Purdy is one of the top. He's certainly a top 10 quarterback. He might be a top 6 or 7 quarterback. I was not all that surprised with his game yesterday. And the biggest difference was, yes, there was one fancy end-around, almost Philly special-like play that they pulled off for a McCaffrey touchdown. But everything else was Purdy, and he got the ball down the field. The 49ers got the ball in motion, upfield, 4-yard-after-catch runs, and the Eagles got none of that yesterday. The only 20-yard pass they had was an out-of-the-backfield to Saquon Barkley. So it tells you the difference. Brock Purdy was willing to and capable of throwing the ball down the field. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles were not.
Right. And that's an excellent point. And as for the pass play, they had not run that play since the Super Bowl loss to Kansas City. So it'd been 2 years since they had run that play. Now, you and I both know Vic Fangio's smart enough to look back at video of everything, right? But how much they practice against something like that, it would probably have practiced it, but it was probably pretty limited.
And you've got new guys in there running the play.
Yes.
Because 2 years ago wasn't the exact same two wide receivers they were handling the football. The first guy who got in, the second guy who throws it downfield. So, yes, they might have run the play before, but they hadn't run it with those two guys.
That's right.
And if they didn't run it to perfection, and McCaffrey was wide open, so he makes a catch, and he gets all the glory, but it was about as easy as could be because the Eagles, as you correctly point out, were nowhere on defense. It just caught them with their pants down.
Right. And as for the Elliott extra point, it's always amazing how you feel like strategically that hangs over the game. I mean, I felt like that the entire day. Like, I think it may have changed a couple of play calls or decisions because they missed the extra point.
Well, Shanahan probably all in, all out, got the better of the key matchup in the entire game. He against Vic Fangio, maybe because of the one particular play you pointed out. But you're right, the game kind of changed, and I am a believer that Shanahan is the best play designer in the National Football League and has been for years.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not that great an in-game coach.
No.
When they scored that last touchdown, you absolutely have to go for 2 points.
Yes.
What's the difference between being up 4 and 5? Nothing.
Yes.
What's the difference between being up 5 or 6? Well, if you get to 2 and you're up by 6 and the Eagles go down and get a touchdown, then they actually have to make the extra point.
Yeah.
If you're only up by 5, as soon as they score the touchdown, game's over. So Shanahan screwed that up, even though he had a great game. He went mano-a-mano against Fangio, who we've done with it several times. They both like each other and respect each other. I didn't think he'd get the better of him yesterday. Shanahan did in the play-calling aspect. But he could have blown the game if the Eagles had that last drive end up in a touchdown.
Yeah.
But that final set of downs, the 4 and out, incomplete, sack for a yard, throwing in the coverage, that was an embarrassing way for the Eagles to finish the game.
No, and when they came out, as soon as they scored the touchdowns, Jody, you were probably exactly like I was. Well, he'll go for 2 here. Because you've already got a guy on the other side that's missed an extra point.
Yep.
Right? So, I couldn't believe it, but then I sat back and went, well, fourth quarter against Kansas City, Fourth quarter with Atlanta against the Patriots, So, yeah, in certain situations, he has not thought his way through it. All right. So now let's get to the A.J. Brown deal. As the season went, after whatever subtle, not so subtle, whining, moaning, and complaining, he was targeted more. Okay. But you and I both know you cannot play the game that way. You cannot play the game with, I'm going to make sure this guy gets the ball. It's got to be organic. Did they lose part of their organic play calling because maybe they were trying to at least get him involved in what was going on and also appeasing him?
If they did, and I think they might, you could be absolutely right, that would be on Jalen, not on Patullo. Because he's drawing up the plays. You've got your numbers of reads that you're supposed to go in order. And I think there were games this year where Jalen said, I got to take care of my guy. I got to make sure we're not dealing with his drama in the locker room. Let me make sure I get him the ball X amount of times. And you're right, that is usually a subscription for failure. Yesterday, they threw it to him a lot in the first half, didn't get it to him as often in the second half. And when they did, he dropped the ball. You got to make those catches. If you are a superstar wide receiver who's got a commercial out there these days that's saying open at all times, well, it's great to get open, but then you actually have to make the catch. And A.J. Brown didn't do that yesterday. He had a bad game, and then he chose not to speak afterwards. And, yeah, you're going to have to stay on top of his social media because at some point he'll have something to say through his own way of getting his information out there. Had a bad game. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Eagles handle this during the offseason. If I were a betting man, I think he'll probably be back, but I would not be surprised if during this upcoming week or so, there's a come-to-Jesus meeting between he and Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie and Sirianni, and they got to get him back on the same page with them and realize that, A, he didn't have as good a game as he talks, and B, I think that he can be a deterrent in that locker room. So I would say if I were a betting man, more on the 50 side that he's still here, because not only do you have to replace him, then you have to get proper compensation for him in the trade, and you have to accept a major dead cap hit. Yay or nay, do I think he'll be back? Yay. But I don't think it's 100%. I was closer to 100% in season when some of these things were happening during the year when he would cause the commotion that he did. But you tack on the fact that he came up real small in the biggest game of the year probably does increase the percentage chance the Eagles at least look into moving on from him during this offseason.
All right. The Jeff Stoutland's one of the best in the business, no question. You can argue he's the best in the business. But the Eagles' offensive line with some movement this year and no Lane Johnson, which, I mean, he can't help. Numbers sometimes can tell a story. Sometimes it's just numbers. But Saquon Barkley last year, I believe the first contact against him was about 4.5 yards downfield last year. First contact. This year it was at the line of scrimmage. Up front, what do they need to do up front other than keeping Lane healthy? Do they have to make moves in a couple of spots?
Well, I think they absolutely have to do better than Tyler Steen, and I know he's a pretty high draft pick, and he, to his credit, unlike basically the rest of the offensive line, he did stay healthy. Everybody else, unfortunately, got hurt. But I do think that's a position they'll look to upgrade either via free agency and or a high draft pick. Yeah, the offensive line wasn't as good. And Saquon on several different runs yesterday immediately changed where he was supposed to go. You trust Saquon Barkley, his ability to read, his ability to immediately move and react and change direction if he needs to. A couple of them worked out and actually led to big gains. Others just went backwards and made a loss even worse than it was. The fact that he had to do it tells you where the Eagle offensive line was run blocking both yesterday and for the entire game. Just not nearly as good as it was with last year's Super Bowl championship team.
What is the mood in the city after something like that?
I'm listening to WIP. I'll be on tonight, so I'll get my first-hand chance to talk to Eagle Nation. So far, not good, as expected, because they underachieved. You go Super Bowl the year before and win it. You're not supposed to get bounced at home in the first round of the playoff, and that's all anybody can think about. Nobody's thinking about the entire season, which was good but not great. I'll be interested to see, at least for my own edification, if people come down on Sirianni because he decided not to play his starters last week. And I know the Packers-Bears was phenomenal on Saturday night. The Bears pulled it out like they have done many a time this year. I thought all along I'd rather play the Packers than the 49ers, and the 49ers jumped up and bit them in the butt. So I think the blame will be spread around. I think that Sirianni and Petullo will get most of it. Some of the players who came up small, A.J. Brown, and even Devontae Smith, you got to catch that ball. Now, I know that Goddard kind of bailed him out by getting the first down on the play after Devontae dropped one, but his wide receivers didn't help him yesterday. Jalen didn't play great. He is risk-averse and doesn't want to throw the ball downfield. His best downfield passes are usually the very long passes with a lot of air under them, and that was not easy yesterday in the wind down there. But the mid-range, 15-yard out slant-type passes that you got to be able to make to be a winning quarterback in this league, Jalen didn't do yesterday. So, like I said, there's a lot of blame to go around, most of it on the offense. But I, like you, will note the fact that the defense had the lead with 8 minutes to go and couldn't stop a 49er offense without their top wide receiver, without their tight end. Defense has got to keep them out of the end zone right there.
I know you wanted to ask me a couple of things about quarterbacks.
Yes, Grunkemeyer, what's the deal? I thought with the way that he finished up and winning the bowl game and the high percentage of passes that he connected on. I thought he was a lock to be their starting quarterback this year. Campbell comes in, brings his kid from Iowa State with him, and Grunkelmeyer's in the transfer portal. I was getting ready to back this kid big time in Nittany Lion Blue next year. Where the hell is he going to be playing?
I think it's going to be Virginia Tech. I think he's going to go down and join James and Danny O'Brien and Ty Howell down there. But I talked with Jake.
Didn't they also sign North Carolina's guy? Carolina's high recruit from a couple of years ago. I think he redshirted this year, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
They already got him through the portal, so maybe it'd be a competition. But I thought Grunkelmeyer played well enough that he should be somebody's starting quarterback to start the year next year, and I thought it should have been Penn State.
No question that Grunkelmeyer should be somebody's starting quarterback. No doubt. You know, the last time he threw an interception was the first series of the Indiana game on November 8th. The first series of the second half. It's the last time he threw a pick. So I know in talking with Jake Waters, the new quarterback coach here at Penn State, they really liked Grunkelmeyer. They really did. And they recruited him to Iowa State. Right? So they know about him. But at the same time, he was also the only quarterback on the roster at the time. So they're going to bring in a quarterback. Well, it turned out Rocco Becht, when Matt Campbell left, he put his name in the portal. And look, he's been a 3-year starter for them. They know him. So he knows the offense because the offensive coordinator's here. Quarterback coach was the same. He's here. Head coach is here. He's here. So there's a comfort level of everything they know about Rocco Becht. And also, they also know what he's not comfortable doing. And Ethan decided he did not want to be in a competition with that, and he decided to put his name in the portal because he wants to start right away. And and nobody's handed anything because Becht had surgery at the end of the season anyway. But I think that was Ethan's decision. Penn State wanted to keep him. He made the decision that it was time to maybe find someplace else.
Well, I hope he lands somewhere because he really did impress me at the end of the season, and that should come in and be fine. And when you make a move at coach like that, and Campbell had a track record, you pursued him, yeah, it's his call. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants with his quarterback since he's taken over the program. I'm not saying he shouldn't do that. I just am saying I would not be surprised if Grunkelmeyer goes somewhere else and has a really nice collegiate career and maybe gets himself a shot at the NFL, because I thought he played damn well for him.
Jody, I agree with everything you just said. I thought he played really well. I think he is deserving of being somebody's starting quarterback somewhere, depending on what the opening happens to be. And then when he gets a shot out there, I think he's going to play well, because the one area where he was hamstrung this year, he's not a great runner. He's an okay runner. But because of Penn State's quarterback situation with the wide receiver being the backup quarterback, he couldn't run. So that took away that element, which meant that they put more on him throwing it. And when he threw it, you're spot on. When a guy goes through the last 4.5 games and does not throw a pick, it's pretty good.
Yeah. If he goes elsewhere, I'll keep an eye on him and I'll kind of root for him. I think that Becht will be fine for Penn State. I hope they don't rue the day that they decided to not just hand the quarterback job to Grunkelmeyer. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. And it's always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for the time you gave us today. I appreciate it.
Steve Jones, it is always my pleasure. Anytime, bud.
All right. The great Jody Mack, one of the best in the business, without question. It's always a privilege to have him on the show and get his thoughts and analysis. This half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK.